Welcome to Dealer Driven, where the rubber meets the road to success.
Welcome to Dealer Driven. I'm Cameron Wilson.
And I'm Michael Hayes. Today, we are tackling a question that's been circling our industry for years. Why hasn't online car buying replaced a showroom?
We live in an age where you can order groceries, furniture, and even a mattress with one click. So why, despite all the advances in automotive e-commerce, do so many consumers still visit the dealership?
Well, thank goodness for that. But to help us unpack this digital dilemma, we're joined by Academy graduate. Yes, our first Academy graduate, Cameron. Joe St. John, Chief Customer Officer at AutoFi, a company that's been powering end-to-end digital retailing for the automotive industry and helping both dealers and consumers move faster and smarter through the buying process.
Joe has spent years working closely with dealers, tech developers, and consumers to understand where digital tools succeed, where they fall short, and how to bridge the gap between clicks and bricks.
Joe, it's great to see you.
It's good to see you too as well. I'm so excited to be here and be a part of this. Thank you for inviting me. It's always an honor to do anything with an ADA. And so for me to get to come here and talk about a topic that I feel like I'm not only just so passionate about, but I'm also on the very front lines of, I'm really excited to get to spend some time doing that. So thank you all for having me.
We're so happy you're here.
Let's go right into it then. So, thinking about the advances in online car sales, why do so many consumers still want to visit a dealership, Joe?
I think that dealers were sold the wrong hypothesis, right? And so what I mean by that is I think that, if you kind of look at the arc of digital retail and automotive, 6-7 years ago, there was a lot of companies out there that were trying to push this idea, this narrative of this Amazon-like experience that customers wanted with cars, right? And that they want to be able to click a button and have it show up at their house. And I don't think that the data has ever really supported that, right? When you look at the customer surveys and the interactions, automotive looks like a lot of other industries where what customers really want to do is more of the journey online so that when they show up to the dealership, they can save time, right? When you think of all the CSI surveys that are out there, you think of the number one complaint of customers today is the number one complaint of customers when I was selling cars, which is it takes too long. And the one thing that erodes the customer experience overall is that period of waiting and feeling like your time's wasted. And so, I think about in automotive, we throw around these terms like disruption all the time. You hear it in LinkedIn and on podcasts and everybody talking about, the business is getting disrupted. I actually really love Jeffrey Moore, the organizational theorist that wrote Crossing the Chasm, basically kind of breaks the idea of disruption into three different things, right? There's kind of infrastructure disruption. There's operating model disruption. There's full business model disruption. And they kind of go in order of what's more intense. Operating your business model is if you're in advertising 10, 15 years ago, it's a different world today than it was 10, 15 years ago. You're not media buying on radio and TV. You're figuring out how to take on the digital landscape and get in front of customers. I think for the actual dealership, it's much more infrastructure model, right? It is an advancement in tooling that enables you to be more effective and efficient at a business model that's not really that different. And I think there's a lot of examples out there in the world of other industries that have kind of gone through the same thing in a very similar way that I think it's facing us. And at the end of the day, I think it all comes down to really customer experience. And what do customers want? Customers, I sold cars for years. The best moments of selling cars is when you're in the back seat of the test drive and they're talking to each other in the front seat and they're falling in love with the car. That's the part that gives you butterflies. That's the exciting part of buying a car. And I think that customers still really love that. They still really appreciate it. I spent 8 weeks out on the road selling cars. And what I found was they still had a lot of joy of looking at the car and seeing the car. And every time, probably 3 out of 5 test drives I went, someone commented on how great it smelled inside the new car. And I think that there's a very sensory, a connected part of the experience that customers still long for. When I come to the Academy, I typically stay at the Ritz-Carlton in Tyson's Corner. They have a special deal for NADA. It's really affordable, but I don't call and talk to somebody to book it. I book it on my little app. And when I show up, they still greet me when I get out of the Uber with, "Hey, Mr. St. John, welcome back." And and it's still this very I think, connected human experience. And when I look at dealers that are incredible at digital, that's what they deliver. They deliver I would say that, and people ask me this all the time, what's the difference between dealers that are really successful with it and everybody else? And I think it comes down to that real focus on customer experience and delivering whatever it is that the customer wants. And if the customer wants to buy it online and have it delivered to the house, yeah, we'll do that. If they want to come in and shop for 6 hours and drive every model we have, and yeah, we'll do that. It's all about meeting them where they are.
Absolutely. You explained that so well about the things that, a consumer can't do online that you are only available to do at the dealership, like the test drive, and, even the greeting when they get to the dealership. Can you think of anything else that's happening in the dealership that can't be replicated online that would, potentially influence the purchasing decision of that individual?
Yeah, I think there's a handful of things. I was an F&I manager and F&I director for a long time. And there was a lot of times that when I was, going through kind of my compliance steps of reviewing all the paperwork with a customer, they would have questions that it was very easy for me in that moment to explain what the risk-based pricing rules are, like the Truth in Lending Act, that Truth in Lending Act box can be really confusing. And so I think that there's also these moments in the process where as a customer, I want to ask somebody a question, right? My mom recently bought a new car and she was so frustrated because she had a real question and the person at the dealership didn't know the answer to it. And she's like, that's why I'm here. And so I think that there's this need of some level of expertise, even and I think about when I was selling cars, the amount of ride and drives I went on with Toyota, where I learned what made the Camry so special and those little nuances and difference between what we sold and what the competition sold. And I think that customers still appreciate that kind of learning, but what they don't want is to feel like you're forcing them through an hour walk around when they already love a Camry. This is their 5th Camry and they're going to buy another Camry. I just want to drive it, make sure I like the new stuff, and I want to find out what the payments are and get this thing done. And so I think it's about that adaptability to really understanding what the customers want and then being able to deliver it no matter what it is.
So along that same line, then you talked about a couple of them, being prepared to answer the questions and the adaptability. What other challenges that you see at dealerships that get in the way of moving, or I say combining the processes, moving that online work that they've done directly when they come into the store? What are the challenges that you have seen integrating that?
Yeah, Michael, I think that's actually the biggest challenge out there right now. And I think it's based on the kind of operating model of a dealership. So when a lot of dealerships are set up the way my dealership was, there's kind of a standard playbook that everybody's following, where I was a sales manager and Hans was our internet manager. And there was almost a wall between what Hans did with his team and what I did at the desk. And so what you have is we have this idea, and I talk about this at the Academy all the time. The digital strategy at most dealerships is basically clickbait on our website and harassment. We're going to clickbait them and we're just going to call them until they either give us an appointment or tell us to stop. And so because of that, I think we look at everything that's not on the showroom as lead based and lead conversion. And we don't think of that as Cameron wants to buy a new Camry. And so she's reaching out to my dealership to figure out the information she needs to be able to make that decision. And the data is really, I think, surprising, right? And I've heard this stat and it's probably made up, but I think from our side, it looks really true, is across all the digital retail tooling that's out there. If you think about a customer that goes to your website, they click on a calculate payments, they put additional down payment in, they go to 72 months, they add a trade, all of that information for every digital retail tool gets pushed into the CRM as a link that a salesperson can click on to go see that information so that they can have an informed conversation with customers. And the stat I've heard around, thrown around at conferences, which I think holds pretty true for us as well, is less than 5% of those links get clicked on, meaning that you have these customers that are doing all of this stuff online and they show up to the dealership and they meet with a salesperson and they think they're there to pick up the car that they bought on the website. And instead they get the welcome to the dealership, what can I help you with? And now we're trying to start them back over at square one. Or they get the lead follow-up call that's hey, Michael, that's a great selection. when would you like to schedule an appointment to come look at it? And Michael, you're like, I scheduled one for Wednesday at 2:30. Like, I've already seen did you not look at all the stuff that I've done? And then on top of that, the sales managers, so when you look at the stats, right? When you look at the data, customers are going to 1.2 to 2.7 dealerships, but depending on the study, right? So they're going to one, maybe two dealerships, which means when they show up on my showroom, they're showing up with the intent to buy, right? Like they are coming in very intentional, and they're at the end of a buying cycle that's been happening without me as the dealer involved in most of it. Most sales managers are only focused on that in showroom experience, and they don't have like a level of accountability or responsibility to all those customers that aren't at the dealership. And we kind of offload that over to the internet department. And I think that the separation between those two departments means there's not a lot of connective tissue to ensure that that customer experience keeps going from wherever it was into what's going to make the customer happy and confident in buying the car at the dealership.
You know, Joe, it's funny you say that. It seems to be a recurring theme on all of our podcast episodes so far is that, you know, the disconnection between the departments is where all of this breakdown is happening. And you were talking about the wall between you and your internet manager. Talk to us a little bit about kind of breaking down those walls and making that a good hybrid experience where somebody's coming from, if I'm looking online and I, you know, click on all those things and I select 72 months or I select a lease payment. Talk about when I get to that store and I'm ready to buy that car, how we make that hybrid experience better.
I think part of the onus is on the companies like mine to provide tooling that really empowers that connected experience. I would say our heaviest investment over the last 2 years has been really focused on the showroom. Right? It's not focused on better lead conversion or better whatever. We've got really good lead conversion. We've got all of these things. And what our data shows in the case studies we've done with dealers is that having a digital checkout experience on your showroom is wildly game changing. Think about the most dealers right now that are doing digital retail. If I'm a customer on their website, I have all this functionality I can do at my fingertips. I can change my term. I can change my down payment. Yet when I get to the showroom, I'm now on a sheet of paper with another person sitting across from me. And the data flow rate between me changing terms or me changing down payments is that person walking 25 yards that way and making me wait for 5 to 10 minutes. And so what we've invested a lot in is how do we provide technology to dealers that allows them on the showroom to deliver the experience the customer wants that seamlessly links it with whatever happened online. And so I think that a part of the onus is that. And a part of the onus is also on the dealer to create a perception of job function for sales managers that goes beyond desking car deals and just being the pencil person. You know, and I talk ad nauseum about this in the industry, is that we take our best salespeople, we put them in a job where their new role is to do math, make hard decisions, and sit still all day. And I think that we're missing the opportunity for them to really be involved in the selling process where it matters, which is in that customer that's trying to decide what dealership they're going to go visit. So I think that the technology has to link those things. And I think there's a lot of learnings from other industries that we can use to really elevate the customer experience on the showroom. Where does it all break down? Well, it all breaks down when I get back from the test drive and it's time to, like, for most customers, where does the car deal go sideways, right? The test drive's great. They're laughing at my jokes. They're having a great time. And then if you think about most dealerships, and Michael, I'll ask you this. Do car deals come like one at a time every hour on the hour, or does it just come in waves, right?
Only in our dreams.
Yeah, you've got 4 hours, there's not a customer anywhere, and then all of a sudden I got like 10 car deals working in its boiler room. And Michael, if you and I are on the desk and you're out bidding trades, I've got 3 salespeople in front of me working car deals. You know, the first one could be a 500 score with 1,000 cash. I'm trying to figure out what car to land them on. Second one, it's a new salesperson. We're switching to a lease because we're on $500 too much payment, and I don't know that we're going to be able to downsell this customer. Third one just got back from a test drive, set their customer on the showroom, and they're waiting for their first pencil. At most dealerships, if you're third in line when it's busy, how long do you think most dealers say it takes to get that pencil?
Oh, God. 15, 20 minutes,
Okay.
30 minutes sometimes.
So think about it, Michael. When's the customer's buying temperature the highest?
As soon as they get back and out of the car.
Yes! And then we leave them out there for 15 minutes as it just comes crashing down. And I mean, Cameron, like, if you sit anywhere for 15 minutes not knowing what's going on, what does it make you want to do?
Leave.
Yes.
I'm ready to
okay,
go.
So before we like go present the numbers to them that we're going to ask them to say yes to, we psychologically pre-program the customer to feel like leaving. And so for me, that's where it all breaks down. And when I think about like infrastructure disruption, that means that dealers need tools that enable them to immediately get information in front of a customer the second they get back from a test drive in a way that I went to F&I training back in like 2004 or 2005, right? Back in the olden days. And at the F&I school, the trainer said something that has always stuck with me, which is if I want somebody to say yes to a decision or yes to an idea, whose idea does it need to be? Theirs. And I think that what we do is we set up this negotiation where I come out, I go, all right, here's what my manager's willing to do. With 10% down at 60 months or at a 785 payment. Do you want to buy it? And we like square off against the customer, and it's them accepting or declining my offer. And I think that if we can turn into a collaborative way and go, okay, with 10% down at 60 months or at a 782 payment, Cameron, is that what you would like to do? And you go, well, what would it be with $5,000 down? Okay, well, with five, like the second it becomes interactive, the more likely it is that it becomes something you'll say yes to because you're taking mental ownership of that. And that's not unique to our business. That's happening in tons of other businesses.
Now, do you see that interactivity happening on the lot with iPads in any stores that you have visited, Joe?
Yeah, so I've seen it on iPads. I've seen it on the, there's an auto group out in California. They have these like X cubicles where it's like things that stick out on each side. There's a TV screen, a docking station for their Windows tablet. They dock it, it's got a keyboard, they hit a button, and now the deal's on the screen, and they're turned with the customer looking at it and kind of working through it together. And to be honest, there's a lot of companies out there like ours that are seeing this as the next, like really where the opportunity for, I think, improvement is. And so there's a lot of companies investing millions of dollars to try and go solve this for dealers because it's the actual pain point for the customer.
Okay, crystal ball time now. When do you think buying a car will be as simple as ordering something from Amazon? And there's only about 130 million Prime members in the US right now. So when do you think that's going to happen, Joe?
I think that's already happened. I just don't think the majority of customers want it. Let me be clear. Like, there's a lot of places you can go hit a button, pick out a car, fill out your app, get an approval, accept your payment, select a couple F&I products, and they will bring it to you. But the percentage of customers that are looking for that experience, I think, is tiny. I think what it is more like, I'll give you a good example. Zillow, right? Like, I think Zillow is a better analogy to automotive because Lori and I bought a house a few years ago. And you know how many times we would see a house on Zillow, we'd be like, that's the one. Oh, this is the one. And then we would get with our realtor who actually used to sell cars for me. And we would go to the house and we'd be like, nope. Right. And then the house we ended up buying on Zillow, my wife was like, I don't know. I just don't see it. I was like, no, I think this might be cool. Let me go look at it. And so I think that because it's such a big thing, like because it's, when you buy a car, you're going to have it for the next 3 to 10 years, right? It's such a big decision that I don't think most people want to hit a button. Are there some that do? Yeah, absolutely. Are there people that will buy a house off Zillow without ever seeing it? Sure. Right. But on Zillow, what did I do? I found the house I liked. I used the mortgage estimation calculator, right? I looked at I did all the things so that when it came time, I was an educated buyer and I was like, okay, this is what I want to go do. And I think that's what most customers are actually looking for.
So, Joe, talk to us a little bit about what dealerships can do to maximize their digital presence, like some quick tips or some things that you've talked to your dealers about lately that they can do to really maximize their digital presence while still maintaining a strong physical presence.
Yeah, I think it's in the car business, we have like a handful of pillars of more like messaging, right? If you think about like positioning of the dealership, it's like, we're the cheapest, biggest inventory, like number 1 in 3 states. Like we have family owned and operated. Like we have these kind of digital pillars. And I've seen very strongly over the last probably 3-4 years, dealers coming out with messaging that attacks the number 1 pain point for the customer, which is like time and it takes too long, and are really winning market share in like very meaningful ways by advertising speed, convenience, trust, like the idea that it's not a 3.5 hour beat down to come buy a car from my dealership. You can be in and out of here very quickly. And we have a lot of tooling to be very transparent. Like the things that when I was selling cars last summer, I was shocked. I thought customers today were going to be easier and nicer than they used to be. And they're harder. Like they like trust us less. I was like, oh, this is going to be so great. Oh man, these people do not like me at all. And I think that customers today trust us less than they used to. And I think that the way that you can craft your website to make it feel more like normal online retail, get rid of the 12 call to action buttons that you have on a VDP page. Get rid of all the like spinning pop-ups and spin the like, and make it feel like you're on a real retail website. And your job is to do one thing, really. It's get the customer all the information they need to be able to make an educated buying decision. And the dealers that take that approach seem to see leads go up. They see conversion rates go up. They see the other thing that most people doing digital retail aren't doing, Cameron, that they should be doing. So I'll use our tool, for example, because I know it the most, but I think other ones do this. Cameron, if you call and you ask about a car, I can just send you a digital deal and say, hey, Cameron, I'm going to go ahead and send you a deal. It'll have your vehicle, it'll have your trade information in there. You can play around with the payment calculator. You can check the lease. You can figure it out. And it's such an engagement tool that gets opened really highly. And now, Cameron, you're playing around with it. It doesn't mean you're going to click buy, but you may call me back and be like, okay, that feels like it's in the budget. I want to come drive that Atlas. Great. Let me get it all set up. So I think that there's these ways to use the technology to expand what we're doing. And I'll give one more bit of advice because I talk a lot. The other thing is use video, man. Like video for salespeople is one of the single most engaging, proactive tools to get a customer to want to buy a car from you. I mean, I think about myself. How many times have I wanted to buy something that sold out immediately? And so I watched a video of someone else taking it out of a box. Like I feel like that's how influential it is. And if a customer is asking you about that, blue Forester, it takes 45 seconds to walk out to that car and be like, hey, what's up? This is Joe St. John. I'm your salesperson. Check out your new Forester. And let me show you what's really cool. And then walk around and point out a couple things and then send that to the customer. Customers watch those over and over and over again. And they go, oh, I want to go see that car. And I think that there's these tools that are at disposal, but we get in this trench of just like going through the motions of waiting for the up bus. And then we just get into this pattern.
You started to do that. And you mentioned earlier too, some real world examples of dealerships where you think they really lined this very, very well, this transition. And you mentioned the California one. I'm thinking Del Grande or something like that. But anyways, just think about any other real world examples that you could share that you think that they really have done a great job and why.
So there's a large automotive group up in Minneapolis that we have a partnership with, and they have us in the vast majority of their stores for the showroom. They're desking 85 to 90% of their car deals all the way through using AutoFi on the showroom at the dealership. And their finance director, who is a hard-nosed, old school finance director, came out of the F&I products world, was a group director. He's one of my favorite people. I love him to pieces, but he is no nonsense F&I director of 45 stores. He's in their he is, and I asked him because I think a lot of times when you think about tooling for showroom that creates a perception of transparency for a customer and is interactive, finance is typically the one that fights it. Well, Jeff's the one that brought us in there. He's the one that brought us in and said, this is what I want to do. And they're seeing a lift in F&I growth by using the digital checkout experience for the customer. But I think this is the difference. When I ask him, we went to dinner a couple of months ago, I said, hey, why did don't BS me, one F&I guy to another, right? Why did you decide that this was the direction you wanted to go? And Michael Hayes, I think the answer is shocking and telling. He said, Joe, he goes, I don't care about the lift in F&I growth. I'm confident that we're going to get a lift. I don't care. You know what I care about is I just see how much better of an experience it is for our customers. And that's what we care about. We're not playing the short game. We got 45 stores. We're playing the long, long, long game. And the way to be successful, if you want to play the long game, and it's to quote Jeff Bezos from 1999, that there's never any misalignment between customer interest and shareholder interests. And I think that's the point of view that he has. If we can focus on delivering the absolute best customer experience, then the reality is that customers are going to come back to us. They're going to send friends and family here. They're going to do all of those things that make us a really valuable, sustainable business. And I would say that the cornerstone of all the success I've seen, the dealer in California, that dealer in Buffalo, like all the dealers around the country that I think are absolutely killing it, they all have a genuine care and focus and intentionality around the type of experience they deliver to a customer.
So, Joe, one last question before we go. And it doesn't have to cost anything, but what is one thing that dealers should be investing in right now to ensure that they remain competitive in both digital and their physical retailing over the next few years?
I'm very biased to this, so I will call out my biases right away. But if you're not looking at technology that transforms the actual buying process on your showroom, and you're still dependent on a sheet of paper with a Sharpie smiley face on it, I think that there are people coming for your market share that are looking at how they're going to deliver a superior customer experience where it actually matters, right? Where does it matter for me at the Ritz? It's when I show up and they upgrade me to a room and say, hey, welcome back, Mr. St. John. In those moments, you're either going to be the one that's drawing a foursquare and writing all over a printed out worksheet, or you're going to be the one that goes, all right, Cameron, let's build your deal together. All right. And I think if I was back in retail tomorrow, I would be using like cutting edge CRM tooling that's out there. Like there's a lot of companies where I can text and I can do all these things. I really interact with my customers. And when they come into the showroom, I would want a showroom checkout experience that didn't feel like it was from the 1970s. And I think that dealers, like that's where I think it's going.
Absolutely. I think that's what all the consumers want as well. No more, we're coming for your markers and your market share.
Yes. Throw your Sharpies in the trash bin. Let's go.
No, if I could, you would yous? I mean, come on.
Well, no, or what can I help you with? How can I help you? Like I was, yeah. I actually, when I was a sales manager, had a printed out sheet of paper said things we don't say. How can I help you? I had it all as like smushed together. And if I could, would you? And then I had, sorry, can't help you. And I just had like strikes through on all of them.
Wonderful. Well, Joe, we can't thank you enough for being here today, sharing all your great insight with us. Thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you, Cameron and Michael, for having me. I really appreciate it.
That's all the time we have for this episode. A huge thank you again to our friend Joe St. John for joining us. If you're enjoying the show, leave us a rating, a review, and tell a friend. Once again, I'm Michael Hayes.
And I'm Cameron Wilson. This has been Dealer Driven from NADA. Keep your dealership in drive, and we'll see you next time.